This is the Leaguefeed.net interview podcast. My name is Ryan Gallagher. Today we have David Graham with us of Valhallan, and he's going to explain just a little bit about what he does inside our gaming realm. So take it away, David. I think you're more than ready to share.
Thank you. So within the esports world, what we're really focused on is using esports as a mechanism to making kids better human beings. And so they love to play the games. They love competition. Some kids are not, acclimated or I guess set up to be sports guys and sports girls. So we give them in and give them a way to get all those benefits of being in a traditional sport environment, but through video games. And I think that's the kind of power and beauty of the inclusive nature of the esports world, is that just about anybody can do it, given some good coaching, some good guidelines, and a safe and non-toxic environment to thrive in. And that's what we found.
Awesome. So when did you start Valhallan? How long has it been going on? And where are you kind of at today?
No, we started about at the end of last year sometime, really trying to full heart into it, let's say. We had some ideas before that and put together, what does it mean? How do we want it to work? As a business model, there's a part of us that, are entrepreneurs, and we want to make sure that it works for our franchisees. And then there's also the part, like, wholeheartedly, we want the kids to get something of value out of it, not just lip service to all these things that we're talking about. So we took about 6 months and put together a curriculum, put together a plan, put it into action, and then found out like half of it didn't work right. So we went back to the drawing board, really nurtured and kind of fleshed it out, and got it to where kids were having a blast. Parents are seeing that this is a real thing. This isn't just more game time, more screen time. This is actually, changing their kids' attitudes. They're coming out of their shell a little bit more around family members. They're able to talk in situations at the dinner table when they were a little bit shy, and you see people getting friends and networking and doing all these things where it just wasn't happening before. They would kind of just go into their dark dungeness room and talk to their buddies online, but they didn't know who those people were. Could have been a 53-year-old talking to a 13-year-old, and you wouldn't know. And so with our network and the way we do it, it just opens up that opportunity for parents and kids to get behind something equally at the same time, and it shows the value. And so that's really what we've done. And now we're somewhere around the 65 unit range sold, and probably have about 40 units open in the United States by the end of the year. 30 or 40. It's a little bit up to permits and things that are out of our control, but we'll have a bunch of arenas in the United States for sure by Q1.
Wow. So when you say units, what is that, like a franchise location?
That's right. So a franchisee will have a small lobby, some TV set up for mom and dad to watch the tournaments. They'll have 30 to 40 PCs. This isn't a LAN center, so throw that kind of concept out the window. This is a training. We're specifically bringing in kids in at prescribed times, giving them a coach that they're going to work with for 3 to 6 months at a time, going through a prescribed curriculum, getting them better at the game in stages, whatever game they choose, and then also teaching them 4 other pillars, which are community, leadership, communication, and teamwork. And those are just as important, if not more, than the actual game mastery, which is the 5th pillar.
Definitely. So, I mean, there's so much to unpack in all of what you just said, but I think the main thing, I had never thought of this concept before, but one of our writers actually interviewed another guy by the name of Jay Malamed. I don't know if I'm not saying his name right, but he has a similar concept called XP League, and that was the first time I've ever heard of something like this.
Well, I was the principal investor in XP League.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I know it well.
Yeah.
I know it very well. He's not with XP League anymore, but
Oh, really? No way. Okay. One of our writers, Andre, did the interview. I don't know when it was, a couple months ago, maybe more. Maybe even in the springtime of before the summer. But that was that was the first time I ever heard of the concept, but immediately it made sense to me.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think
We're a
is
little
your
different than XP League in a few different ways.
yeah,
Uh,
so okay. Yeah, go ahead, go into that. Like, what makes
yeah,
Valhallan a
so
little
this is
different?
one of the reasons that I'm not an investor in XP League anymore, is that I felt like there was some things that, I think there's space for both of us. I don't want to talk ill of anybody. I think that the way they do it is a little bit different in that they take a mobile first kind of approach. So they have
Okay.
laptops, they go to a school, a library, a church, they set up, and then kids come there. And we took an arena approach where we build out these locations and brick and mortar locations, and you invest time, energy, furniture, fixtures, equipment, get all the fastest computers and best technology and put it in there. And we have a fixed approach. I think our approach is a little bit better for multiple reasons, but you can hold a birthday party at our location. You can't do it in their van. It's a
Sure.
little bit different in that regard. That until very recently, they weren't on a subscription service, so they weren't doing like they were on a full season. So much like T-ball, you would pay for a season,
Yeah.
and then after that season, you could just opt out. We think it takes longer to get what we want to accomplish done, and so we took a more like a year-long approach to teaching kids.
Sure.
And so you need to come in. We finance that year monthly for our parents, and so they can be a part of a bigger, broader strategy. And then the last thing I would say is different is our league, Valhallan Esports League, is big. It's got probably 4,000, 5,000 teams that play every season, and then however many kids that is, I don't know. It's somewhere in the 15,000 kids range. But they're not just made up of Valhallan kids. We have the same ethos, and everybody that's in there has to be coach led. That has to be non-toxic, zero tolerance for bullying, all those things. But there are schools that do not participate in the Valhallan arenas across the country.
Okay.
Now we're also in the UK and the EU as well. So theirs is just their locations, their mobile
Sure.
units participating. So a little bit different.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's good to know. I'm obviously pretty new to the concept, but again, I think it makes sense to. I mean, in general, I feel like the school, like being in school, certain kids, it works for certain kids, it doesn't work for other kids. There are gaps that are filled by extracurricular activities a lot of the time, whether it's football, baseball, and now you have options like this. If gaming is your thing, and increasingly that's becoming more kids' things. So for that, like, who are you finding are the parents and the kids who are coming to you most often? Like, is your customer base?
And you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Something like 75% of all kids stop doing any kind of organized sport or activity after the age of 11. And so
Wow.
that's a massive amount of kids. Like, it's a major majority. And so we're not targeting just the nerds in their rooms and the kind of edge case scenarios. It's really the predominance of all kids out there.
Sure.
And now most of the kids have tried, soccer, t-ball, baseball, basketball, didn't like it for one reason or another, and now this is their competitive part of it, right? I mean, it's what they're really getting charged about, teamwork and making some friends around a common goal kind of stuff. But we do have a lot of sports people. A lot of sports kids come to us and who are really good athletically, and then they already know what it means to work on a team and be coached,
Yep.
and how we remain coachable and take good advice, and that kind of stuff. So, or ask for good advice.
Yeah.
So many of those kids come in, they don't even know how to ask, or they don't know how to take that advice in the right way, and that's part of our objective here. But I don't think we're targeting a specific kid in that regard, because it is so just wide open.
Yep.
Right now, 80% of kids play games. I mean,
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. As far as on the parents' side, one of the things we hear most common is, "I wish this was available when I was a kid. I would have totally done this. I wasn't a sports kid. I was kind of just left to my own devices, and I didn't have anything like this, and this is perfect." And I think that's a really powerful testimonial, kind of like multi-generational testimonial. And frankly, it's my story. That's why I kind of dug the idea from the beginning. I was not a super athlete. I was not, my claim to fame was winning pentathlon in fifth grade, right? I mean, I was a nerd. I was kind of a geek. And so now nerd culture kind of caught up to me, like finally I'm have some claim to fame here. And so I think there's a lot of that going on right now as far as the parents are concerned.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's, I know for me, my parents, it's hard to conceptualize because, I don't know, like when I talk about video games or something with my dad, it's like he's played me in Madden and lost like 70 to 80% of the time. Played me in like, Marvel versus DC Universe on the PS3, like fighting, and we'd whoop him, me and my brother. Yeah. So it's like he doesn't really get it. So how do you conceptualize that for parents that don't see a need for this, or like do you bring them in to show them what's going on, or how do you kind of like break that barrier with
so I think that's
the boomers or maybe even older?
We have the boomer league too, so after
okay.
we open that up for the adults to come in and play on the PCs and participate in just a fun only. It's a little bit competitive, but we all suck, so whatever. And that's kind of fun too. But the way we really do that is like make it a very low bar to entry, right? We say, look, I know you don't get it. Come in for a week and try it out. Like whatever, we play different games on different days. I don't know what your kid's into Fortnite, your kid's into, Valorant, whatever it is. Come into all of them. Just sit through it. And you can. It's an hour and a half class. 2 hours sometimes. Sit through. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And if you don't see the value after that, hey, we didn't do our job right. No harm, no foul. But at least the worst thing that happens is they have a good time. And so I think you just have to do that low bar approach because it is kind of unorthodox. It's a 0 to 1 kind of idea. It's not something they've heard of before. And the value proposition is hard to make too. Like let your kid play another hour and a half of video games. It's usually not high on the mom's radar. It's not the dad's, by the way. You said, Dad, how do I convince Dad? It's always mom. It's always mom.
You're right.
75% of all household income, the discretionary income is spent by the mom. And so that's who we really have to convince. Dad's pretty much like, let the kid do whatever he wants, fine. Mom's like, do you really need another hour of gaming? You're already always on that thing, kind of approach. So we have to show just what I said at the beginning of the call is that this isn't just more gaming. This isn't just more screen time. This is productive screen time with an agenda, an ulterior motive, if you will, of making them better human beings.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I feel like for up until now and even still now, like we're kind of in the such early stages with gaming because if with any other sport that's new or any other organization that's new, you would have pretty much like set rules of when this takes place, where it takes place, things like that, how to do it, some like code of conduct and just general things like that. And I think with it, like especially with the internet and in gaming too, it's like you don't really have these spelled out rules as much. Yeah. So like they
get rank play and matchmaking. What do you need? Why do we need a schedule? Right. I mean, it's but I think there is some value in working within an organization, a structure that's been laid out, tracking your progress over time, finding friends that want to work together and build a team that is better than just randos that you match make with online.
Yeah.
Your EO is fine and all that, but like, do you know how this guy plays? Like that's a whole different story, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's like getting to know people. There's working to a common goal, like you said, and then also doing it in a way that like just kind of increases your skills and increases like more than just gaming, like you said. I think that's kind of the main difference for me when I'm thinking about, you know, leagues like this, and the benefits of them. Yeah,
You
that's
know,
that's
and
kind
I
of where
think
my mind
my
goes.
analogy is like if you lacrosse, okay, lacrosse is kind of popular now, soccer kind of popular now, but you know, there was 20 years ago nobody played either one of those
Yep.
really. And at least, and people kind of parents kind of leaned on, well, at least they're outside exercising, you
Yeah.
know, like, at least they're doing something. Well, I think the kind of at least they're here is at least they're playing with their friends, at least they're in a safe, non-toxic environment. And I think industry is going to grow into what we know as, you know, soccer, lacrosse, and all these kind of ancillary sports, pickleball, getting a lot of traction right now. All
Yep.
these kind of ancillary sports that are getting picked up are going to become the baseball, you know, and the football and you know, and soccer and lacrosse and all that stuff moves up a rank, and we kind of fill in that next step. So I think it's just very new. I think
Mhm.
it's you
Yep.
know, not effervescently evergreen in the minds of parents right now, but we're working on it. We're changing that, you know, as much as we can.
So who is the main leaders of the organization? Is it mainly you, or do you have some other like leaders and partners? Who is kind of like driving the goals and the next
Sure.
steps of for Valhallan?
We have a very robust team. You know, my company, Franchisor, you can see it on my shirt here, is a franchising company. We own 4 or 5 different brands. So just from a business perspective, we have a leadership team that manages the kind of working on the business, like how do you read P&Ls, how do you build over time, how do you make a better business. So there's tons of people. We're 50 people or so that work on just
Okay.
that. Um, how do you get open? All that kind of stuff is kind of a little bit generic in the sense that it's not brand specific, right?
Sure.
It could be for any business. And we have all that kind of tucked away and have for years. So we brought in subject matter experts, a few different people that are in VP positions that work for TSM, that have started their own organizations within the youth esports space. And so a few different people like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
Luke Zelon is one of them. He worked for TSM. Chris Barstad started is our VP of leagues. He runs all the league. He started his own league, and then it kind of got bought by another company, and then we acquired that company. So we merged 2 or 3 of these huge leagues together
cool.
To create Valhallan Esports League.
And the people like yourself and some of the other guys that you mentioned, what games are you guys playing in your, or personally, like what gets you guys excited about furthering you know, Valhallan and you know, and this business?
Well, I think if you're going to be having an esports platform, you're really going to make esports grow. You got to do it kind of at the grassroots level. I think, you know, taking it. I think we've seen over the last 5 years, you know, taking this huge private equity venture capital approach to esports probably wasn't the right tactic to go in. If you want to win the hearts and minds and actually monetize consumers, you have to go in a different way. And I think that's one of the most exciting things I think we're doing is we are actually taking the harder route to
Okay.
get there, and getting in front of people, winning their hearts and minds, making them understand what esports is and how it benefits everybody around. That's kind of exciting to me, you know, to take a different tact and a different monetization strategy, certainly, than the industry has seen to date. And hopefully by doing that, we become the T-ball field or the little league field in every community where, oh yeah, you want to get into esports, you got to go to Valhalla. Like that's the starting rung. That's where you start.
Sure.
I mean, that's the thing to do. Just like you would say, oh, you want to get into baseball, you got to go to T-ball. I mean, you got to go to
Yep.
little league. Like that's, you know, and so I think that's the kind of the exciting part of this is it is still kind of the Wild West in these sports. You know, I think a lot of people did a lot of good testing to date, but never really kind of cracked the profitability model.
Sure.
And so that to me is as a business person is a very interesting kind of pioneering stage.
Yeah.
Like